Welcome to episode 9 of the All Things Odd podcast. This week we go all international and are joined by Joel Spooner from InTreeMedia. How's it going, Joel?
Very well, thank you, Tom. Good.
Thank you for coming on the podcast. Just tell us where you are, because you're an Englishman, but you're not in the UK, are you?
No, I'm in Vancouver, British Columbia.
How come you ended up over in Vancouver?
How can there's a very long story or there's a very short story.
Very short story, we'll go for.
The very short story, yeah. Did a degree in forestry. At 19, I came out here to do a second year transfer at UBC, and then effectively made a bunch of friends. Went back to the UK. Ended up getting the working holiday visa in my late 20s. Came back out here and then wanted to get permanent residence. Got permanent residence, then wanted to get citizenship, got citizenship, so I'm here.
So you've been in Canada for a good couple of years now then?
6 years now.
6 years?
Yeah.
And did you manage to come back home at all?
Yeah, I tried to come back home. Well, I mean, obviously right now with COVID, that's not happening.
Yeah.
But I try to come home every other year. In an ideal world, I'd be trying to do it sort of every year. I've got most of the family are back home, and I enjoy the culture and that sort of thing, so trying to build that international lifestyle.
Yeah, are you a tea drinker by any chance?
Am I what?
A tea drinker.
I am very much a tea drinker.
So what
to be honest with you,
like getting good stuff then?
I import it. My family send my family send out the tea.
So you get little care packages every now and again.
Every now and then, yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Or when I go back, I just fill my suitcase with tea and chocolate. And I'd bring bacon back as well if I could.
Oh. Yeah, I've seen the pictures like Canadian bacon and American bacon, and it looks like it's just thin bits of gristle.
Yeah,
not my cup of tea, and two, definitely not my type of breakfast. So tell us a little bit about InTreeMedia. What is it that you guys actually do?
What do? We primarily take photographs and video specifically for tree care companies, manufacturers, equipment suppliers, training organisations.
So how does that cross over? Because because we spoke off here, you did the 12-week course, didn't you?
Oh, back in Merrittswood, yeah.
Yeah, you did the 12-week course at Merrittswood.
Yeah. Well, it was a 10. I don't know. Is it 12 weeks now? It was 10 weeks when I did it, which was however many years ago now, like 10, 12 years ago. So yeah, I guess like if you want a little bit of history into like how we kind of got here. So I did the degree in forestry, and prior to that, before going to do my degree, I was working with a director of photography, doing a lot of dramas, documentaries, kind of like just doing a lot of camera assisting and second camera operating.
All right.
And then did my degree in forestry. So always been around trees and cameras, and always been self-employed, keeping both of those in my skill sets really. And came out of the degree, very hands-on guy, so I wanted to go get my chainsaw tickets, and I was going to go work for a company, and they asked me to fund my own chainsaw tickets. So I started looking into that. Yeah. So I went and started looking in at the cost of that, and then came across that 10-week course at Merrittswood, and I was like, okay, it's not that much more expensive at the time, and I get my climbing tickets as well, which I know is going to then give me international opportunities to get work. So I just decided to stop trying to find work and just went and immersed myself in 10-week course, which was actually really good after doing my degree in forestry.
Was it a tough 10 weeks?
It was, in the sense that I was shit scared of climbing.
I think everyone, when they start off in the industry, because I started off years ago, I probably started off about 2 or 3 years just before you did. And the first time I got into a tree, I was like, hang on, what am I doing again? I'm going to be an arborist. This sounds great. And then you look down and you think, oh, fuck that. why am I actually doing it? So what is actually involved in the 10? Can you remember what was involved on the 10 weeks? Yeah,
it was a combination of it's theory and practical. And I can't remember what the split was. It was maybe like 3 days theory, 2 days practical. And it went everything from sort of like tree biology, tree ID, basic chainsaw maintenance, how to sharpen chainsaws, the inner workings of the engines and stuff. And we did a lot of health and safety and best practice based back then, though. I mean, we weren't being taught any stationary rope techniques or anything like that. It's all just French Prusik, pretty much. I don't think I even saw one. Yeah, I don't think I even saw like one pulley in my hitch system. So it's quite well like laid out in the sense that we had the theory, and then we'd go out and we'd do like tree dynamics and things like that, and then we'd gradually start climbing, and then we'd just go out just climbing, and then once we got familiar with climbing, we then got given chainsaws, and we all were given big turkey oak in a forest, and they just go have some fun, practice your pruning cuts, practice your step cuts, and then just remove these trees. And that was like so much fun and just incredibly scary as well. But it's great because you're just not concerned about your drop zone and anything below, so you can just get out there, and it was good fun. It was definitely a good course.
There's no taking out any greenhouses or garden fences, putting it into the quote going, well, if we smash the fence, we'll be all right. We'll be good.
Yeah.
So is tree work, because I've never been to Canada, I've never even been to America, is it massively different? Because I know the health and safety culture doesn't really exist on the other side of the water.
Well, so it's different tree work in the sense of predominantly a lot of the tree work. Well, so it's different. So Vancouver, and then you've got out of Vancouver. So Vancouver has its own bylaws. So in order to remove a tree in Vancouver, you actually have to have a permit for it. Anything over 20 centimeters DBH, you have to get a permit. So there's not a huge amount of removals that happen in Vancouver. And then a lot of the trees that we work on are, your conifers, so it's just straight up and down, sort of end weight reduction. So a lot of the Doug firs we have out here, they'll just drop branches, or if the snow comes down, there's chances that they can break off. So a lot of the work is just tipping those back in, crown reductions, view pruning for people because they want to see the mountains, and then so there's not as many sort of like what I consider like the more sort of artwork of it, of where you're doing like a full-on reduction and things like that. Every now and then there's the odd broadleaf tree that will sort of go out and do some things like that. But yeah.
Because whenever I see like any tree work going on in America, it's mainly a big saw and you're in a bucket.
Yeah, so I've not done a lot of that work, but it does exist.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of bucket work that's out there, but I prefer climbing. So I've never really sort of like gone down that route. But there are definitely a lot of companies that do a lot of bucket work, and it's an incredible asset to have on a crew as well. And there's a lot of hedge work that a bucket is just ideal for. So
when was the last time you actually did a bit of connie bashing?
I was just out on Vancouver Island just recently, so it was very much doing that. Just Douglas fir that was being topped and is now a hedge.
It's not just staying into a hedge just like that. No one really minds.
That's it. Yeah. So there's quite a bit of that sort of work.
Yeah.
So it's not that glamorous, to be honest with you.
No, it sounds weird because I used to watch. What's the program? I used to be on the history. Axemen. That was it years and years ago, where the fell and stuff and the tying it off. If anyone's listening or watching, excuse me, I know very little about like the American logging aspect over there. I'm fully UK. All I know is like English tree work as such. But I remember them, you got like the winches and the grapples and everything that just drags them up and everything. But anyway, so we'll go back to the name InTreeMedia. You do the photography, you do the video, and you do the commercial work. Here's a question for you. Can you remember your first picture that you took?
What, like in tree or like ever?
Just in general, sorry.
That's a good question. It's probably, I definitely remember like the most memorable one was my parents built their house with all their friends. So I must have been maybe 6 or 7 because they were doing an extension on the back of the house. So I can almost picture the picture. It was just me taking a picture of like my parents' friends on the roof building the house. Yeah, that's probably the first memorable photograph I took.
And how many pictures have you took since then?
I don't know.
Thousands.
It's like, like tens of, if easily. Yeah, I wouldn't want to know.
Yeah.
Data storage.
What came first? Was it the idea of tree work or was it the photography aspect?
Well, I've always been around nature, and I've always like we grew up in the countryside. I had the woods. Literally, I was so blessed. Like at the bottom of the garden, there's a woods, and I could just literally go down there and had to do what I want. And we had our own fires, so I was always around wood and chainsaws. It's not really in my family though. There's not like a lineage of tree workers or anything like that. But I just grew up around it, or around trees, and I've always been creative. So it probably started with a love of trees and being out around nature, and working outdoors. And I had a good family friend who was a forester. So that was where it was like, oh, there's opportunity for career in forestry. And arboriculture didn't really come into my mindset until I was probably like early mid-teens. I think I went and did a little bit of, I think someone came along and I went and did a day's work with someone just grounding.
Just see what it was all about then.
Yeah, it was just more just like earn some cash as a teenager. And so yeah, just got like little snippets here and there of the different opportunities of tree work. So yeah, probably trees first, but I've always been creative. And then yeah, the camera side of things, it was classic kind of decision, I guess, like when I was early, because it was very much I was trying to decide whether to go to university to do photography or forestry. So there was already at the beginning there, like, because I was 16, because I came to Canada when I was 16, very first time. Because I knew that if I did forestry, I wanted to come to UBC.
Yeah.
But I was weighing up whether I go do a creative degree or go do a more scientific degree. And I was like, well, I can teach myself photography and like to learn forestry and all the science around it and get the contacts and understanding of like how forest environments work. Like it's going to take a lot more to be able to go and do that. And it's not like I can just teach myself on my own. So yeah, it's probably more of like a logical, like this is the better decision to do to take a forestry degree. And then that's why I just made sure that I got work in camera operating so that I could do that. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the kit that you use for photography-wise, because I can geek out now because I absolutely love all the camera stuff. Again, we were talking just off before we went on live with the podcast. I've got the cameras in front of me, I've got lights, I've got a set, I've got absolutely everything, so I can get to geek out. Are you a Canon guy, a Nikon guy, or are you going to be weird and go mirrorless and go down the Sony route?
Well, this is the funny thing. Like, I'm definitely one of those people that does not tech out. Really? So I'm not a geek when it comes to like, like it was even with climbing gear as well. I was just like, yeah, French plastic, this is fine, gets the job done. And then people are like, Joel, if you use this and you use this, like it can be more fun and efficient. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is kind of cool. So it's kind of the same with cameras in that sense that I'm not like, okay, what's the best camera out there? How's it going to be like? I want to be able to do all these different things and like really, really geek out.
Oh, I'm the complete opposite. I've always liked the best of the best.
Yeah. So I do my research in the sense that like, okay, I know that I want a full frame camera. I know that I want these different specs, but I then don't necessarily like look across the board. I'm just like, I just need a machine that works and is going to be good quality. And then I'm going to do the rest. But so to answer your question in short, I'm a Nikon guy. So predominantly the cameras I use are Nikon.
Yeah, good stuff.
My partner, she's also a photographer and she uses Sony. So I actually interchange between Sony and Nikon.
Yeah.
So they're primarily the two brands of camera that I work with. Yeah.
Interesting. Because I know I start off with a Nikon. I think it's like the D3500, like the really basic model. And then I went on a shoot and I got to use the 810, and that thing felt like a tank. And I got really lucky. One of my friends had the D4, which is like the size.
Nice.
The D4 is like the best of the best. And then obviously the more, because we do a lot of video work at the trade shows, I got put over to the Canon, so I got a 1DX. I think it was the Mark 2 or the Mark 3 at the time. Really enjoyed it, and I was looking at the price tags going, Christ, these things are more than chainsaws.
Yeah. Oh, they're not. I know. It's like, it's not like I'm swinging around up there with all this gear on. Yeah. And I'm like, this is freaking expensive stuff that I'm just like swinging around in a tree in.
Because you'll go up in the tree, and obviously people don't know about cameras. With the really high-end cameras, you've got the body and the lenses separate. Some lenses, like for a decent lens, 1,500 quid upwards. Bearing in mind the body of the camera is another $2,000 on top of it. And we did a shoot like ages ago, back in 2019, and I think the camera setup we had at the time was $8,000, and we're swinging around going, we've got $8,000 worth of camera equipment. Is this actually covered on our insurance? If like we're sending this up a tree with a guy,
Yeah.
it's absolutely insane. So what Nikon camera are you shooting with at the moment?
So my baby, the one that's got me to where I'm at, is the D610, and I love it. Absolutely love it.
Oh yeah.
Because it's just below the 810. But that just was way more for like portrait photography.
Yeah.
I wanted something that was a little bit more versatile, and also the price tag at the time was just like couldn't afford that. And I've recently got a Nikon Z6. I just went for the mirrorless, just to see it. And again, it was just it's always this kind of like way up between like, because the lenses are, there's an investment in the lenses.
Yeah.
And then I was looking at like video capabilities of different cameras, and I was looking at the Z6. I was like, okay, I'm just going to play around with this to see what that looks like, because I've already got a variety of lenses to shoot with it. So that's what I'm playing around with at the moment as well.
Because we were quite lucky. A couple of weeks ago, we got contacted by Panasonic, and they lent us I think it was the SH1, which is like a dedicated 4K video camera, and it all came massive Pelican cases. And we seen like it weren't like an invoice. It was just, this is what it is and this is how much it cost. Put it this way, it came to bed with me every single night. We had multiple lenses. We had everything from like a 14mm all the way up to I think it was a 125. I'm sure it was a 125mm frame lens.
Well, when you get bored of it, just send it over. That'd be lovely.
Oh, I turned around to him and went, how much is it for like everything that we need? And the turn around was just over $11,000. But we can do you a deal. I was like, okay, 11 grand. You can do me a deal, 5% off. Okay, might be able to justify it in about 2 years' time at that price. But we used it. I took it absolutely everywhere for the couple of weeks we had. It's absolutely beautiful camera.
Nice.
People don't realise if they get beautiful photography, they can display it on the social media pages and across their website as well. And that's where you kind of come into the mix, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So with InTreeMedia, you're a qualified camera and you're a bloody good photographer, because we've actually been using some of your images across our content already.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
That's all right. How did the idea of InTreeMedia come about?
The idea of InTreeMedia, how did it come about? It was very much organically. And again, like, so if you go back, like I've always been amongst trees or cameras. So it's just sort of been a progression. And then when I got here, it was very much becoming part of the arborist community, which is actually the best thing that could have happened to me, because I was actually trying to push my photography career and get out of the arb community. Well, because, I wasn't part of a community. I didn't feel part of a community just because of some of the experiences that I'd had and just where my intentions were going. And then I wasn't getting anywhere with the photography, and I needed to get a job. So I ended up getting a job at Bartlett, where I met just an incredible bunch of guys who were so open to be on teaching techniques and all that sort of stuff, and fell in amongst just an incredible culture of people. And then got opened up to climbing competitions. So I went along to climbing competitions and took my camera and then shot the Masters climb at a competition in Comox on the island, on Vancouver Island. And then I was chatting to the organizer, Ryan Sensual, at the time, and just said, can I come and shoot the next tree climbing competition, but can I get up in the trees? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. So I got up there and then just started shooting away. And then I did that for, I do it every year. I'd be doing it again now if the competitions were on. They're just the competitions are probably one of the most important parts of the growth of InTree. So I was shooting at tree climbing competitions, and so then I was just like, okay, this is kind of really cool. And then I was working with Dan Holiday a lot as well.
Creating a lot of content. Shout out to Dan.
Yeah, no, I'm just like so much gratitude for him, because he's taught me so much in terms of climbing skills, and then he's just also just having someone to work creatively with. It's just incredible, so much fun. And so I was doing a lot of work with him at the beginning, just shooting some photography and video stuff for his channels. And then I was at a climbing competition, and a guy called Dan Chamberlain came up to me and wanted to know if I could shoot video for his business. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. Someone wants me to actually come and shoot a video for them. And so I wasn't really thinking of it in that way at the time. And then I also know how to build websites, and I'm quite sort of business savvy in that sense. So I started asking him, like, why do you want a video? And he's like, well, I want to get more clients. I was like, well, have you got a website? His website wasn't really operational. So I pitched him the idea of actually coming out and working with him as an arborist and a photographer for a couple of weeks. And I'm good at project management and logistics and things like that. So I sat down with him and went through his schedule of work for the next month and said, like, let's find a window there where it makes sense for me to come out and I'll shoot for your business. And then I'll build your website for you. And then we can talk about a video, like, once you're actually kind of like operational and got things flowing.
You are a bit like an all-in-one media production guy who can climb trees, operate a chainsaw, and keep himself safe all at the same time. That's a bit of a rarity, that is.
Yeah, and well, it is. And for me, it was just like, this is incredible. I get to do all the things that I love doing in one job role, because I like diversity. I really, really like diversity. And I get to work with the people that I like as well. So I'm working with my kind of people, doing the things I really enjoy doing. So I was just like, whoa, this is fantastic. And then, so once that happened, and then I was just like, I started paying more attention to what was going on Instagram. And at the time, like, because I was trying to build a photography channel of my own stuff, and I was like all over the place, shooting all sorts of different stuff. So it wasn't tree focused at that time. But I started looking, and I know very few of the equipment suppliers had Instagram accounts. And I was like, what? Why is no one got any Instagram accounts? It's still like that,
surprisingly. It's only been the last couple of years, a lot more businesses have went, hang on, there's a lot of arborists on Instagram, we better jump on the bandwagon and start joining
Absolutely.
them. And even now, no one likes to look at a product photo of it just being on a plain blank background. We want to see it being used in action.
Absolutely. So when I started to see that, I was then like, well, okay, there's very, like, why, like, in my head, I was like, why aren't these businesses on these channels? And then I started just looking around, I was like, oh, there's no photographs, and it's incredibly expensive to like employ a full-time photographer and to actually generate that sort of content. And I'm like, okay, well, I know the tree care industry. I've got a lot of contacts. I'm great at project management, so I'm able to like communicate with everyone really well. I'm great at taking photographs and video. I've got the equipment, I've got the capabilities, and I've built a really good network of people out here. So it's like, okay, I need to start just formulating this. And then I'm just very thankful for the contacts I've got and the guys that I was working with at the time. So I left Bartlett to pursue more of my photography and was just contract climbing. And then a lot of my friends started leaving Bartlett to set up their own companies. And then I was contracting to them.
Yeah.
And it was just, I'm just so grateful for their input, because just every day we're out in the job, we're just like cutting hedges or pruning trees or doing what have you, and just spitballing back and forth different ideas. And I've got to give a shout out to Matt Fernandez at Peak Trees, because there was one day we were there on a big job that he had. We were pruning some pin oaks, and I was just reeling around different ideas for the name for InTreeMedia. And we're just back and forth, and we got a real good, nice bit of banter between ourselves. And just there, and I was just throwing all these different sorts of things, and he was just looking up at me going, huh, you InTree? That's what it is. And then it was like,
InTreeMedia was born.
Is it InTree Creative, InTree Collective, InTree, like all these different sorts of things? And it was like, okay, we'll go with InTreeMedia. And so, so then that's InTree was born. Like the name, and as soon as he said it, I was just like, boom, absolutely nailed it. So like, I've got like a lot of gratitude for the guys that have been around me, who have helped me in various different ways to get to where I am today. Yeah.
So when you're up in the tree, how do you actually keep your equipment attached to you? Because it must be one of your biggest fears going, okay, I'm in a tree, I'm attached to a rope. Now this tiny little like lanyard that says Nikon around my neck isn't always going to be the right option.
No. So I had a very humbling moment on a shoot not too long ago, and I dropped my camera.
Oh.
And I broke my camera in half.
Well, that's impressive, at least.
Yeah. Its lens snapped from the body. And now I have to say, like, because that has been one of my biggest challenges is how to manage one camera with multiple lenses or two cameras. how to get all of the shots that I want to get whilst not limiting production time, and also not putting myself under pressure and various things like that. And ergonomically, where to have them positioned so that I can still climb and have my camera.
I didn't even think of that.
Because it's like, so much of what I do is shooting on the fly.
Yeah.
And because I know how the jobs work, it's like I can preempt a lot of stuff. And because a lot of the shoots I'm doing, especially for like, for anyone really, they're on working job sites. And one of my key things is that I don't want to limit the production time of any of the arborist models that I'm working with, because they're providing the job sites. And there's absolutely a discussion that goes on there. Nonetheless, I'm not sort of sitting there going, "Oh, could you stop for a moment before you do that? Can you just do this?"
I know that tree's about to fall over, but could you just get about halfway and hold it for me?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So there's an element of me needing to be like on the ball all the time, climbing around, being safe for myself as well whilst I'm climbing around, and making sure I'm connected and I'm not falling out the tree. And it's a classic thing. I'm going to sound like I'm talking through like a tree job accident where it's late in the day. I'm tired.
Yeah.
I've got all of these shots, and it's only me and my own expectations of what I need to shoot and deliver that was there, and I was in an uncomfortable position in my climbing rope. So it's like all the classic things that lead up to
everything
a potential accident.
Gonna go wrong.
Yeah, and I was just there, and I've got a lanyard system, so it's all there, and I've got my little XSRE beaners that I clip them onto my harness with, and I've got a whole chest harness thing that me and Martin Penrose made up out of an old harness, which is sweet, works really well. But I'd unclipped a camera to lower it down to someone who's on the ground, and they passed me up another camera, and I forgot to click it back on.
Oh, well, that kind of probably was the problem.
Yeah. So then I was there shooting, okay? And then I was such an uncomfortable position. I was like, come on, Joel, move your position, get into a more... So I did that bit. So as I did that, I just lowered my camera down, thinking that it was attached. And I'm not kidding you. It's like the most humbling moment, because I let it go thinking it was attached. And it just went, boom. And I just went, and I was like... And it's just like, all the things, just like, okay, at least it wasn't me.
Yeah, well,
it's
look on the bright side, that's a good way of it.
It is insured. It's fine. I've got all the shots I needed to get. I have a second camera. That's fine. But just like, and in front of people, and then it's all those different sorts of things can come in. And I was just like, wow, okay, this is just a big lesson at a time in my career that I needed to learn. And like I say, it was very humbling, very humbling.
Yeah, I can kind of relate to that. One of my first ever contract climbing gigs, I was that nervous to go, right, I've got years of experience, I'm ready to go sub climbing for people. I managed to drop my 200T twice out of the tree.
Ouch.
Just forget to connect it back each time. I should have had, because the way I was climbing, it wasn't the best, it was completely unclipped from me. So in case the branch took the saw, it wouldn't take me with it. But like on the second occasion, I got out of the tree and I just said to the guy, I was like, I'll be honest, this is like my first gig of contract climbing. I'm really, really sorry. I just went, it happens. And I ended up doing subbing into him for like another 2-3 years before I gave it up. I can relate, but obviously a 200T, 600 quid tops. Nikon camera, or a couple of grand. Then you got the lens, and if any of the elements in the lens are damaged, that's it. You ain't getting that fixed anytime.
Yeah. So, but it's important, and just for me being such a perfectionist and putting a lot of pressure upon myself to deliver the highest quality content I can, it just comes down to patience, and I'm capable of doing it. It's just like, stop for a moment, take a breath. The same applies to all of like the stuff we do in tree work as well. It's like, if you're feeling a bit pressured, you're feeling a bit stressed, you're in an uncomfortable position, just take a moment, take a few breaths, look around, change what you need to change to get comfortable, and then start again.
Because a lot of tree work, it is a case of, right, I've got one chance to do this, and if I missed a shot, I missed a shot. It's not like we can go back and reset it up or anything.
Yeah.
Has there ever been that occasion where you went, right, this is the shot, SD card full?
Oh yeah. Oh, that's like all the time. I say all the time. There's been multiple occasions where it's like, SD card's never been a massive issue because I've always got enough on me.
Yeah.
But it's definitely happened at times. I'll be like, this one's down, and I've got like my other SD cards in a bag at the bottom of a tree, and there's no one on the ground close by who knows what they're looking for to be able to get it. So I'm like, okay, I need to have everything with me. So now I always carry like spares of everything. But yeah, there's been moments, I'll be like changing settings, or like something happens, or I've got to switch the camera out, or I want a different lens, and I've definitely missed shots. But again, it's like shots that I know would have been amazing, but if the client doesn't see them, there's a whole bunch of other amazing shots that are there. So it's not quite as bad as like being a wedding photographer, where the bride and the groom are walking down there, and you miss that shot of everyone throwing a confetti or what have you, and they're all out of focus. That's a little bit more painful. I mean,
Has there been like a really memorable shot of doing tree work?
I think it's a common. So, my partner Ronnie, she said to me, "Be inspired by what you see." Yeah,
that's good.
And like, just those words have just stuck with me so strong. And she said it to me a few years ago, and like, it was just before I was going out to shoot on a job site, and I just had that rolling around my head, and I was climbing up a big cedar whilst they were removing a hemlock tree below me. And I was so focused on the shot that I thought I wanted to get, which was to get up, to come down, to go out and go around. But I just remembered her words going, and be inspired by what you see. So I just turned around, I stopped, and I looked down, and I was like, there you go. That's my shot. Yeah. And it's a shot just looking down. He's removing hemlock tree and just like sawdust blowing out the saw. Sun is just like lighting it all up. And there's just greenery everywhere. He's in the high-vis top, blue hat. And it's just like, and I was just there, and I started seeing everything. And then like the Husqvarna bar just like cutting through it. And then I was just picking the logo just before it gets hidden by the wood. And like, so I just got lost in this little moment of just like trying to capture all of these different little moments to tell a whole story and like what happened in less than 2 minutes.
Yeah. Just to clarify something, it's not called sawdust, it's called man glitter in the industry.
Man glitter then. Okay.
Everyone loves a bit of man glitter. So do you have like a certain style of photography that you do? Is it not like landscape as such, but do you do like, trying to think of like how to word it. Do you like to do like close up shots, or do you want to get everything in the picture?
For me, it's getting the variety, the diversity of shots. And so I guess it's like I don't know, you asked the question like, what's my style, or...
Yeah, what's your style?
Yeah, I don't know. What's my style?
If it looks good, you press the shutter button.
Well, there is that, but there is a lot of thought that goes behind it. And it's like anything, there's a lot of it's just muscle memory now. So I've trained my eye to see what I know looks good.
Yeah.
So I can, like, I don't even have to put the camera to my face now to see the shot that I know I want to get. And it's working with like depth of field and like different objects that might be blurred, but even though they're blurred, someone in the industry would know that that's a chainsaw body, or that's a cone, or that's the back of a chipper. But the subject matter is a little bit further in the background, but they're sharp in focus. So it kind of tells like a whole story without everything actually being really clear as to what it actually is. So that's a real key part of what I see. And then a lot of it is around leading lines. And like leading lines can be as simple as a twig, or just any like smallest little details just to help lead the viewer's eyes around the photograph. And again, it's like I will be on a job site and I'll get there and I'll see something. I'll be like, oh, sweet, that's like a nice little frame there. I can use that as a frame to frame the person or the product that I'm trying to shoot or what have you. So just, like I say, it just like really adds to that job site feel or context.
Now, you've done something different, because I first came across you on Instagram about 6 or 8 months ago. You've now gone down the route of stock photography. Where did that idea come from?
The stock photography idea came from the sense that in a lot of my sort of business development and business growth, and like really trying to like understand why InTreeMedia exists and who it's trying to serve and where it's trying to go, there's a blend between creating a sustainable business and also being able to provide a cost-effective product that's high quality that can be used by small businesses across the world. And my ideal client from Joel personally is to work with people who are trying to grow their businesses. Like, I just love that. I get a big kick out of people finding satisfaction out of doing something they love doing and being able to grow. And I understand the significant investment that is content creation. Like, it's either huge investment in time, huge investment in gear, combination of the both, or you're employing a professional to come out and shoot for you. And it's a significant investment. And I wanted to be able to break the barrier of that for small to medium-sized tree care businesses who don't yet have the capacity or investment to be able to put that money into investing in the visual look of their business and all their marketing. So it was really trying to break that barrier down. And I want to see the industry become really much more progressive, much more safe and enjoyable for everyone to work in. So it's really important for me that every photograph that goes out there is exemplifying or showcasing safe working practices across the board. So just by inference, people can start to see this is what it is. Because you go on Getty Images or iStock, I've been looking around and it's there's just quite horrific shots on there, and you're like, clearly Getty don't understand what safe working practices are. They just are photo focused, so they're just going to let anything go through. Whereas it's really important to me that every photograph that is being purchased from the website is showing safe working practices to help businesses put their best foot forward as well. Because it just makes for a much more enjoyable and safe environment for everyone.
Yeah, because when I was building my business, we had a website, we had social media pages, and the only photos we would ever get would be either me or one of the climbers up the tree on our phones taking pictures of each other. We didn't have the budget to go and hire a photographer, and if we did, to actually then say to the photographer, "Oh, can you come up the tree with us?" The 99% of them will say no, so we'd have to get a MUP in, we'd have to harness them all up. We'd be looking at thousands, and when I started All Things Arb, I was met with the same issue of, right, there's no stock photography of chainsaws, there's no footage of people climbing trees, and we've been using multiple resources for the last couple of years of just trying to find something that we would go, yeah, that looks acceptable, yeah, that's kind of within the guidelines. But we've seen hundreds of pictures where people have gone up with a high vis on, you can tell it's a ground helmet, with a standard chainsaw, and they're just cutting away, and we're like, okay, we can't really use any of those pictures. So when we came across you, I went, oh my God, we found someone who knows the industry, who is taking pictures, and the only downside that I've come across is a lot of it is all Canadian and American, which is obvious because you are based over in Canada. So I am praying to God, when you come over to the UK, we can set you up with a load of stuff and I can get all the images I want. Absolutely. On top of that, if any web developers or if any marketing or the likes of Timberwolf Force still, if you're listening to the podcast, get in touch with Joel, because he's got the industry experience to go and get great images of your equipment being used in tree work, and he can do it safely. So what is the name of your website? Is it InTreeMedia.com?
InTreeMedia.com. Yeah.
So it's InTreeMedia. Just go look at his content. The quality of the images speak for themselves, and honestly, you'll be glad you've come across him. And best of all, his pricing's really reasonable. You're not going to be having to pay Shutterstock £300+ a month, which is what we're doing at the moment. So definitely we'll get your contact details towards the end of the podcast. But if you're a marketing manager sitting there thinking, oh, right, I want to go ahead do this for the company, or if you're a web developer working with a tree surgeon, just go to InTreeMedia.com, go get the images, and it will make your client super happy because they are professional, high-quality images.
Okay, that's a beautiful little plug. Thank you there, Tom.
That's all right, mate. It's what we got you on the podcast for. But
I'll give you one more piece. So the whole intention, or one of the intentions for InTree, for myself personally, was to be able to give myself the opportunity to work internationally. So I'm very connected to the UK. I love it out here in Canada as well. And a lot of it was to create myself the ability to move around the world and shoot in the places where I also want to live. So if COVID wasn't happening, I'd be back in the UK right now, and I'd be shooting for various different tree care companies, building up a stock library of UK content. Intention to go to Australia.
I'm super excited when that's going to happen. I'm already a customer, but I'll be the first person who'll be banging on about these pictures. Because we see a lot of tree surgery websites, because we have people reaching out to us saying, what do you think of our website? And we look at it and go, you've got an electric chainsaw that's clearly like a Makita one or a DeWalt one that you picked up like 40 quid, or even where's a Bosch one on your website, and it's cutting up plywood, and you're trying to come across professional, and you say, go get a professional photographer. And I go, yeah, but he wants about 450 quid. Well, hang on, you're a tree surgeon charging 600 quid to cut a tree down. Swings and roundabouts, mate. Swings and roundabouts.
Yeah. And it's like being a creative as well, and just having seen how I've been able to create this career for myself. I know there's other photographers who are arborists out there, and I just want to be able to see them also flourish and see an opportunity to actually let their creativity flow. Because I feel like a lot of us, we prevent creativity from existing, because there's this thing around, oh, you're not going to earn money through being creative, and it's just like all these different barriers. And I always have had this vision of InTree being a collective of creatives across the industry. And so that's another reason of setting up the stock site, is it's actually a window where I see other creatives coming on board who are located in different areas around the world, who are contributing to the platform. Yeah. So it's not just me going around. So effectively, I would become like the editor of the shots that come through. And there will just be lots of other creatives out there who, maybe don't have the same tenacity or business experience that I've got, and have just been able to just like keep going through and building this, but really just want to let their creativity flow and still go out and do tree work and things like that. So then there's an avenue for them to sort of sell their work through the InTree platform. So that's kind of like the longer
term. Make a couple of beer tokens. Yeah. So if you're a tree surgeon anywhere around the world and you're really good with a camera, send a couple of samples over to Joel. Yeah. Just saying, you never know, you might be up on the stock photography website actually getting paid. One, you've been paid to climb the trees, and now you're getting paid to take the photos as well.
Just as long as it doesn't stop production.
As long as it doesn't stop
I want tree companies to be productive and safe.
So, Joel, how can people get in touch with you?
With me, through the website, InTreeMedia.com, on our Instagram. That's the two main platforms, so it's at InTreeMedia, and or email at hello@InTreeMedia.com.
So any businesses out there that are looking for professional stock photography, get yourself over to Joel's website, send them an email, because if you can't see like a certain photo or if you've got an idea in your head, work with Joel. We've got a couple of ideas already on the cards of certain photos that we'd like to have in our magazine. Name a couple of big businesses that you'd like to work with, Joel.
Couple of big businesses I work with. I really want to work
America, name them.
Well, I because of just being in the UK, and I went to university in Bangor, like ISC or DMM, that would just be very close to my heart, because I've spent a lot of time up there, and I feel like just getting a UK-based manufacturer would be incredible for myself. Yeah.
All right, Joel, thanks for coming on the podcast. Take it easy, mate.
Appreciate that. Thanks, Tom. Thanks for your time.